Welcome to March 4th meeting of the Zero Emissions Advisory Board. The agenda. We have in front of me, I believe the first item is
Public
comments.
But we do, if there's anyone who would like to make public comment at this time, we're happy to take it. I will just note for the board that we had someone who requested to make public comment at this meeting, but couldn't join at the start and asked if we could take her comment at the end. That's Ann Lusk. We received information from in your packet. So if folks are okay with that, then I would just recommend that we reserve that option at the end as well.
We have John Harris has his hand up. John?
Yes, hi. Whoops. Hi, thank you. Yeah, no, I have a brief public comment on the CARP, and I noticed public comment on that is listed in just a couple of minutes. So should I speak now or hold off till then?
Hold off till then, if you don't mind, John. It'll probably be about 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
So approval of the last. It's from February 4th, it's for 2 weeks. Yeah, it's from February 4th. Does anyone have any feedback or any?
I got specific things over back to you.
Yep, I can make those changes.
As well as some general feedback that we need to discuss that.
Okay. Anyone else? So we'll make a motion, I guess I can do it. Motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 4th, 2026. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all in favor.
Who seconded?
Yeah.
Technically, you have the
Okay,
carry on.
thank you. Next one on that. Next item is, I think, for discussion public on the draft climate action and resiliency plan.
All right, great. So we have released a full draft of the climate action and resiliency plan and have shared that out last week with folks and have sent it directly to anyone that participated in our community forums, any of the boards or commissions that we engage with directly for feedback, as well as thank you. I believe Patty shared it on the town meeting listserv, and we've asked that it be shared in various newsletters and including the Climate Action for Climate newsletter. So thank you to everybody who's helping to do that. So we're open for public comment via email, or welcome to set up a call with me. But this is an opportunity for anyone who would like to offer their comment here. Thus far, we've received maybe like a dozen from non-ZIAB folks via email, but it's only been out for 6 days, so possibly more to come on that. But our goal is to receive all comments by next Monday, and then ZIAB meets again at the end of March. And March 25th. And so we will have an updated, I hope, final draft for your review at that time. So with that, I'll turn it over to members of the public. And John, I think you get first dibs since you already had your hand up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. John Harris, co-chair of Climate Action Brookline, although speaking privately. And my concern is the issue of micromobility, and I would urge that it be listed as a high priority item on the CARP. I'm just confused. At the last ZIAB meeting, there was a slide on the screen for quite a while that had micromobility as high priority. And so I felt very reassured, but I have just been told that in the last draft had it bumped down to medium priority. I would just remind everybody that micromobility reduces greenhouse gases, road particulates, wear and tear on the roads. It provides transportation for low and moderate income people. It relieves road and car parking congestion. The direct costs, and this is very important, are borne by residents to buy their own e-bike, etc. And the town is responsible only for upgrading roads and facilities, separated cycle tracks, including implementing the protected framework aspects of the Complete Streets Plan that's already on the books. And finally, if the micromobility is muscle powered, it's healthy transportation due to the exercise of pedaling. And so again, I just urge that micromobility make it through the plan, listed as a high priority. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other public comments?
So we have two other members of the public with us online and no one in the room. Would anybody else like to make a comment about the Climate Action Resiliency Plan draft? All right, hearing none.
Go
ahead.
I had scheduled. Do you want comments from Ziad at all? There's a couple of minor things. Do you want those just sent to you via?
I would say if it's copy edits or, kind of, copy edits, send those via email, but if there's kind of larger picture items, or questions, comments, I would be happy to take those now from Ziad.
I do have a couple of larger picture things. I'm trying to find a copy edit that was quite important, which was, I think, somewhere it had 2030 it had 2030, 2040, 2030 as the goal, but I can't find that.
It's on page 2. That was
Yeah.
in one of our comments that I sent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we received that one from a few folks. So
Yeah, I
it's
just
been
say-
noted.
I was gonna say, I was like, I'm sure I saw this.
It's on-
It's on page 2.
it's on the first page of the,
I do have a couple of higher level questions or comments.
Sure.
So I think the COP does a good job of identifying the outcomes that we want. Maybe not everywhere quite as explicitly as I would like, but generally it does. But I think it would be good if we attached a time frame to all of the things that we have in there. So for example, with solar, we have something that said we're going to put 3 megawatts of solar. By when would be helpful. So just adding that kind of additional kind of date that we hope to do that, recognizing of course that we're potentially not going to get to the dates on all these things, but it is a plan, it is somewhat aspirational. So I think just kind of going through the document, making sure that we kind of tick those boxes, and I can enumerate them if you want, but it's probably best if you just take a look at it yourself. And the second thing I thought of was there's a question of accountability and how that gets surfaced that I think is a little bit missing. And I know there's aspects of it that we've got the kind of biannual kind of review, but there wasn't, to me, something that said, well, if we miss this goal, we're going to take this action, right? So, and maybe I missed it because it's quite a long document. But there's an aspect of this where we should be saying, well, we hoped to get to 3 megawatts by some date. We only got to 2 megawatts. That something happens when that happens. Like we report it to the select board, we bring it to Ziad. Some kind of like accountability would be good. And then the third thing, I think this might be something that Patty has brought up before, is how do we report on the how do we report on everything? And is that part of this? I did not see that being called out explicitly. So those are the 3 things that I thought might be helpful.
For the last question, can I just clarify, how do you report on everything? You mean out to the public or?
I think just generally, I mean, yes, to the public. So if we have a plan and we say we're going to do these things by this date, in a different world, in my world, there'd be like a dashboard that had hopefully lots of green lights on it, a couple of yellow ones and maybe a red one that said we've made the progress we expected to make, right? Something like that might be useful. Whether that's done on the website or it's done as a, semi-annual report or something like that, some flavor of saying we have met our targets.
So we are developing a dashboard. It probably won't be as fancy as sophisticated as we would like it to be, but we're working within the limitations of our web platform that we have. But yes, we are developing that, and it will function much like you said. Here's the strategy. Are we in the planning stage? Are we in the implementation stage? Have we completed this? Is it ongoing? Because some of them it isn't a finite stop at some point. It's a keep going as much as we can. So that will be updated, and our goal is to do that twice a year.
And then I have a question on the accountability fund. So your division department is not necessarily able to complete by itself achieve all these outcomes. Right? So there's an accountability portion of this where you're accountable, but you may not have any power. So the question becomes like, how are other departments, divisions, individuals held accountable to the plan, and are they held accountable to the plan, and how do we plan on reporting on that?
Yeah, so that is, I have no power. Let me just put a fine point on it. I can't do anything without buy-in from the other departments. And so that's already true with any of the work that we're trying to do. So that holds true for the plan as well. So we have a staff steering committee that has been working with us on the development of the plan. And that has representatives from planning, building, fleet, stormwater, emergency management, fire. So a lot of departments that have some connection to the plan. And the expectation is that if it's something that they have the capacity to do with the resources that they have, then they have worked to help shape that goal and understand that that's something that is, integrated into their existing work plan. In some cases, the work we're asking them to do is additional. And so they've been very clear, I do not have a person to work on this. And unless you find me money, I won't. So it's a yes, understandably, with we need the resources to implement it. So that's, I would say the buy-in is generally there, and we're continuing to work on that with all the departments, with the understanding that we're, accountable for the plan, but can't do any of it without their support and help.
And that's kind of where I thought the reporting might be helpful, because if you know early that something's going to happen, you could raise it to town administrator, to select board, whatever else, and maybe they would be helpful. I'm not sure if the people helpful, but that might be. I'm not sure if that's how it
Well,
works.
to the extent that there are budgeting trade-offs that might impact whether other departments have the resources, certainly lifting up those needs within the context of your reporting makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that would be just that cycle, and it's quite a hard cycle and also quite painful probably, because if you're holding other people accountable, that might not be politically popular.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a lot of friends.
you have us. She starts crying.
Yes, understood. I think there are some systems in place for us to have those kind of checkpoints, if you will. So when they develop the capital improvement plan, there's a group of people at the table when the proposals are all coming in from all the departments. And so it's basically the finance folks and then me and the director of planning that are there. So I think that's probably an example where there is a little bit of an opportunity for that. Hey, this is in the CARP. Are you including this in your scope of work for this particular capital project? If not, what would need to move for you to be able to do that? So I think for capital, it's a little bit easier. I think for some of the more longer term and reoccurring items, it becomes a little bit more challenging, and especially those that influence the operating budget. So I hear that point for sure. And I think that's part of the conversation that we have to have in terms of, here are the goals of the plan that we're trying to move forward. But if we have the resources, and here's the prioritization, but if we have the resources available to work on X, and it's a medium priority and we don't have the resources for Y, well, we're going to work on X before Y.
Of course, that makes sense. I wonder if in this situation, if it might make sense to raise it to Ziad, but this, I don't know how this works, and we could maybe give a recommendation. If there are specific things that were really important that we felt we should comment on, that might be helpful too. Maybe not helpful, but maybe it's helpful. Good luck done like that.
Throughout the implementation
No, just
process.
let's say if it's all red lights, what do we do about it? And can we be helpful?
Yeah.
Right? Because my expectation is it's not going to be all red lights.
Yeah.
Because we want to be adaptable.
Yeah.
Right. But if it is all red lights, let's not wait 6 months. Right. That makes sense. Okay. That's all I have.
I think you had another question that maybe not. Okay, good. Never mind. Yep.
Eddie was first. Patty?
I am struggling with the organization. Which I know not a small thing to say. I think that we're doing one CARP, including the resilience, and we're putting all the high priority actions for both in a table at the top. We didn't really define, I don't think, not that I saw, how the factor for carbon reduction is modified, how that standard is modified for, you know, application of the framework and the resilience, and which kind of made it confusing, I thought, because you're going to have a bunch of active people in the community who care about the carbon, and they're going to see, you know, these other things in there. And I think I infer that it's done that way because it's a town plan contemplating town resources. And this is kind of how things the cards fell, applying both the carbon and the resilience framework. They're a little bit different in terms of town, you know, a town program, town resources. And then I kind of found I found it confusing to then have like goals and strategies. And the language and the strategies isn't always clear what the differences are. 3.1 and 3.2 really jumped out at me. And then when I read on, I see, okay, there's a section on implementation way at the end. And that's when you can kind of look at 3.1 and 3.2 and actually see maybe the difference. That it wasn't entirely clear to me kind of what the difference was between the two. It was more clear when I went to the implementation section, but that was kind of an afterthought. I with limited time, I have to come to this meeting, and other people might have the same reaction. I don't need to look at the implementation as the weeds, but it's actually the way it's done is really substantive.
That's the most important part.
Yeah, that's the most important part of the plan. So it also jumped out at me that with the MP, because that's something I know, you know, I've done research about the MPA stuff, and the formulation of what other communities were doing, I didn't think it was accurate. I think that people have been hitting a wall on these, and it's the formulation sounded way more rosy, I think, than the reality. So I'll send you a red line, but the bigger point in my mind is it just maybe better because we're going to be held accountable for every word in here, whether it's accurate or not. So if we haven't really kind of done the due diligence to check everything with communities before we're representing what they're doing, maybe there should be an appendix, like that stuff could be in an appendix, you know, to kind of illustrate things that communities might be doing. And then there's maybe it's less prominent in the document. And then maybe is there a need really then to separate the strategies and actions, because that's already in the implementation section. I mean, the stuff about what other communities are doing could be appendixed, and then you could just have the goals and the strategies. So, and I'm wondering if there's, I think those are my major comments, but I wonder if there's a way to slice and dice a bit more. So you have that table, with both carbon mitigation and resilience, which, the resilience stuff isn't going to resonate with people as kind of a climate strategy, I think, for the large part. And it's just, but it's like really prominently at the forefront in that first table. I just remember reading, I think it's both Cambridge and Boston, who did it, for example, buildings and energy, and then they had near term, midterm, longer term. that way. And maybe it's kind of already there in the appendix. It probably is, but it just seems like maybe that should be the kind of the meat of what should be. What
Yeah.
people are gonna want to see, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so I can answer the kind of how did we translate the carbon reduction to the resilience factor for prioritization is we looked at the biggest threats that climate change poses to our region. So we looked at heat,
Mhm.
flooding and stormwater, severe storms. And depending on how many things that it checked, that basically correlated to the score that resilience item received. The high priority items, we do have a even split between mitigation and resilience items. That actually wasn't on purpose. I was very pleased that that happened, but that it wasn't tipped. That's just how it came out through the prioritization process. So I think it is a climate action and resiliency plan.
Yeah.
And so it's going to have resiliency in there. And I do think that there's a contingent of people that feel pretty strongly about that as well. I just don't think it's represented in this body. Well, I don't know what you all do outside of ZF, so maybe that's another part of your advocacy, but I think it's not represented in this body, and there isn't one public board or commission that focuses on that. It kind of splits between all these different functions. So I think that makes it a little bit harder to kind of hear the collective voice on that.
I don't think I saw how you just explained the framework for resilience in the places early on in the document where you talk about the prioritization.
Okay, I can look at that and see if it's defined in there, and if it's not, make
Where
sure
it should be,
that,
because otherwise you're looking at this long list and you're seeing carbon mitigation, and then you're seeing like really high up there in a high priority item, something that doesn't mitigate
yeah.
carbon. And it just, you could scratch your head, why is that there?
Yeah. And so noted, we'll make sure that that is defined clearly. And then, for the MPA, that was researched and was part of Blue Strike's, work on this plan.
I mean, we talked to
So-
Cambridge and they said, like, they have not been able to engage
Yeah,
the
so
utility companies. We heard that from.
it may be that, he put a happier spin on it than, he should have, so we can, revisit that as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, Newton's the only community that's gotten anywhere with the utility companies, and we know about that. I mean, they're negotiating an MOU. It's a lawyer stage, but no one else has made. Arlington we spoke to, they didn't make any progress. They had one interaction, and then the utilities went cold. They didn't return calls. They couldn't communicate.
Patty?
And pardon me?
Should we let the other people, let other members have a comment as well?
Sure. I just wanted to give the data for. Great. Yeah.
Did someone else have comments?
Yeah, a couple of things. I sent comments to Alexandra, but one thing I wanted to bring up in the technical appendix on page 60, the technical appendix, it begins a description of the weights and the rating sort of thing. And when I went through that and compared it to the criteria that were in the last version of the spreadsheet that we looked at maybe last meeting or 2 meetings ago, it looked like there was something in there called capital projects, which was in the original ZF thing, but was no longer in there. So just make sure you make sure that the what's in the technical portion is coincides with the version that we discussed a couple of weeks ago on those things. And the other thing, and I'll be talking to Blue Strike to try to get some clarification on this next point, but they have in the technical appendix is a very nice section where they have graphs, and those graphs show up in the main body of the report as well, showing the various major elements and the greenhouse gas emission reductions. And it's a little bit unclear to me
the relationship between that and the actions that have actually been chosen. I think that's sort of an overall thing if everything got done. So I think that needs to be clarified because it is a section that summarizes the greenhouse gas reductions. And there are a few times in the main body that referred to that, and I was having trouble connecting what's a fairly good analysis to the actual prioritization that we did. So I think it's important that that is made clear because I think people will be looking at it and wondering what the connections are.
Anyone else have any comments?
I have to finish going through it and then I can forward some comments.
Nothing other than what we.
Vikram?
Nothing on my end.
Go ahead.
I had one thing that I was piqued my interest, or I noticed at the beginning, reading through the narrative section in the equity and environmental justice section on page 10, where it defines environmental justice communities. It includes like the full list. It includes seniors, children, low-income households, renters, and those living in environmental justice neighborhoods. And the inclusion of renters seemed curious to me.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where that came from. In particular, because I mean, Brookline has a majority renter
Yeah.
population.
Both is
so
We did discuss it a lot during the CARB process, but I think the equity definition changed. At one point, we were talking about renters in the context of equity. When the equity definition changes to environmental justice communities, it becomes different.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I will look at that page in particular, but based off of what you're saying, the EJ communities definition shouldn't have renters specifically called out in it. So if it's an EJ community definition that uses renters as part of the definition, that's not what the intention is there. So that seems like a,
Yeah, it's the first paragraph on page 10, just to be
okay.
We did lose the concept of renter equity at some point, which I'm fine with, but that is something that did happen in the evolution of the CARB. I do have one final comment because I really liked one part. I liked a lot of it, but I really liked one part of the CARB, which was when you described it as a living document. I really like that. I really like the section. I really like the fact that that was put in there because it expresses that it's not fixed in stone. I think it's really important.
Great. Thank you. Well, wonderful. Thank you all for that feedback.
Can I make one more? Do we have time for me to make one more comment?
We do. We have 2 minutes.
I can try a line of it, but just with some suggestive language. But I wonder if it could or should make clear that this is, implementation and reaching a 2050 goal is an undertaking by the whole community.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I did see it once, but it seems like it's something that might be repeated, and particularly when community groups might be looking for how they plug in. It could be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Great. Well, thank you all. Appreciate that. And yes, do feel free to follow up. I know some of you have via email and send along any other comments or questions that come to mind. And we will be working to take all those in as well as any other comments from the public and make updates. You also, not that it makes a big difference, but it is a large document. It is a larger document than I would like it to be, but there was a lot that we were trying to include in there. I do think it will be a more readable document the next time you see it because it won't just be words and charts. It'll be laid out in a way that's more digestible. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So I think that part of the length and breadth of the document. I do hope that we can tighten up some of the language, but I also think that that will help a bit with the narrative and the storytelling.
So now you're mentioning that, look for opportunities, there are some repeated sections. And as I was going through, I understood the reasons for the repetition. Because we're kind of like unfolding, more detail or whatever. But look for opportunities to listen. Felt a little bit like going through the town meeting warrant, where you see these sections and then you go further and see the exact same sections again. And again.
I felt like multiple documents, actually. I felt like there was a sort of synopsis document, and then there was another document which had the details in it, which isn't inappropriate, but it did feel strange in one document.
Got it. Thank you. Great.
Did anyone try and print it?
No.
With ink and paper.
Yes.
I don't have enough.
It's definitely unprintable, because it's in the print margins. But
Did everybody take a look at the web version? There is a website. If you go the last page of the card, there's like 5 or 6 things. That's where you see the technical. And then there's one, I forget what it's called. I think it's like the various last thing. If you click on that, it opens up the web page that has pictures of the town, and it has the little things that shows the status, beginning, the kind of thing you were asking about. So
apparently it's used Alexandra.
That's the dashboard, which is not finished, so didn't know that was included. So.
That's it. I knew
No,
that.
really, yeah. In fact, it looked to me. I guess my question was: did Blue Stripe do Somerville's climate action plan? Because I happen to be looking. There was some reference to Somerville in there, and I went on their website and it looked familiar.
They didn't, but
I'm not complaining.
when we were building the dashboard and looking at what our options were, and part of that being by what we could do technically with our website, Rebecca and I liked what Somerville did, and so we used that as one of the examples that we gave them. So that might be part of the reason for the character. But not that it's a secret, it's just not finished. So I just didn't realize that link was in there. Great. Thank you all.
You might want to go, if you haven't clicked, there's like 5 links on the last page. If you haven't done it, click on all 5 of them.
Next on the agenda is an update from you, Robin.
Yes, it is. This will be very quick. But I realized, and I know a lot of you are in town meeting, so this is probably pieces of information that you already have, but budget season is upon us. And so with that, I thought I would just make sure that everybody could see what is a pretty small budget. But for the sustainability division. So because we are not we are considered a pilot project because we are grant funded. They did create a whole new budget section for us. So we are actually within, if you look at the operating budget and you're like, where's sustainability? We are within the parks budget, Parks and Open Space budget. And you might miss it because this is what it is, which is we have $5,000 in the operating budget, and that is allocated right now for consulting services that are needed. But ultimately, some of that gets reallocated towards pens and paper and some of those basic things throughout the year. But this is our operating budget, $25,000, excluding salaries. My salary is represented in the DPW administration tab. And then the rest of our staff salaries are either represented within parks or by the various grants that are funding those individuals.
Is this informational, a concern?
This is just informational.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. but I think you had one. Yep.
Which positions are granted you?
Shelley, the assistant deputy director, and Katie, the program manager. And that's one grant. And then the second grant is Carolyn through that grant. So Rebecca's position and our conservation and natural resource manager are incorporated already into the operating budget for parks. Basically, if our division went away, that function would move back to likely parks and it would remain. But
And which was the Shelley and Katie grant?
that was a private grant. That was a multi-year grant to start up the sustainability division. And kind of one of the big reasons that we are still in the pilot stage is it's a question of if we should be brought into the operating budget and what expenses we're offsetting as a division. So namely, how much money are we bringing in or how much savings are we offering through the work that we're doing overall.
And the last year of that grant is when?
Next year.
So the money ends effective June 30th, 2027.
Yes.
And do you have any intel from the select? Anything you can share? I guess there's an override meeting coming up. Anything you can say, you two, with us?
I can say that the town administrator regards the sustainability work as one of the recent successes of the town.
The recent
Successes of the town.
successes.
More than answer.
Do we all vote and agree to that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't get out ahead of you about this.
I had to ask.
You have to ask. And I had to come up with this.
Sorry, so we put you on the spot.
No.
And then this is the capital budget, which again, our section is conservation, open space and sustainability. So the first line is regarding our urban forestry management program. Likely not great interest to this group necessarily. Happy to talk about it if it is. Walnut Hill Cemetery, also likely not of great interest to this group. And then the last one is the Strategic Solar Initiative. So I know we've talked about this at a couple meetings, but I did just want folks to know that this is the town administrator's budget is now published and that 3.2 million is included in it. And just you can see that RC category, which is just the code for where that funding is coming from. You can see it as an A next to it. And the A means that it's coming from property tax, free cash, overlay surplus.
Not from the override specifically, correct. That's the important part.
Not from the override and not bonded.
And the other thing to note here is we do not have a figure for 29, 30, 31, or 32, but that does not mean definitively that there will not be money in those years.
Correct. So I think that is when we, think back for the strategic solar work that we're doing, we have those two tracks. And so this is 3.2 is certainly to get us started on track one and begin the assessment so that we can keep moving on track two. The idea being that when we have that assessment regarding track two, that we will be making, some additional capital requests and also seeking out grant dollars to help supplement that.
Yeah. But it's not something to deal with right now.
Right, but I almost think of it, this might not be the right vernacular, but it's kind of like this is our startup money. And, to use that both to create some actual project implementation, but also to gather the information that we need to be able to make the case for future dollars and the source to obtain those from. That's it. So if you have any questions about it, like I said, it's It's pretty small, and but it's a little bit hidden if you're looking at the financial pages online.
Well, this number's big.
Well, that's true. Yes. Just the list is short. When you look at the other budgets, you're like scroll, scroll, scroll.
Well, this is consistent with the thesis that we had from several years ago, which is we should do a couple of things and do them well, as opposed to try and boil the ocean.
Well, good.
Could, will that be on the, that'll be online?
Never Rebecca's fault. It's always my fault. I'm delinquent sending her things.
No, I only asked because I was having trouble reading some of the.
Yeah, it's also, and I can also just send you all the link to where you can find it on the town's website, but there's a financial budget link and you can, it's just, if you're looking at that and you look for sustainability, you're not going to see it. You'll have to go to parks because it's broken down by department.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
And next on the agenda, which I do not have right in front of me, I do, other business. Do we have any other business? I think we were planning to use this for a public comment. Is that correct?
Yes, I think if folks have other business they want to bring up, obviously you can take that, and then Ann Lusk, who's here to offer her public comment, is available. So I think just up to you all if you have something else for us.
Crystal?
I will mention that Climate Action Brookline has a meeting Monday night at 5 o'clock, and it's featuring Carolyn Stout talking about her work. And we've heard from her that it'll be another chance for people to talk with her. I don't know.
What time?
5. So on the website.
And her office hours are starting up at Putterham Library on March 18th. And so we're excited to see what kind of turnout she gets for that, and hopefully expand those. But we sent out a press release announcing her position and some of the work that she's doing, and it's resulted in an uptick for sure in phone calls and emails that she's received from residents. And I believe Brookline.News reached out to do a report as well. So I think we're getting her information out there, and I think people are at least interested.
That's going to be where her office is located, or is she?
No, she's moving. Her office is located up on the 4th floor. This was me miming her moving. So she's trying to go to where the people are. So we're trying to cover. She's starting at Putterham Library, but we're trying to cover all libraries and the senior center. And then we're talking about town hall as well, but trying to geographically disperse.
So this is the first of her many office locations.
Yeah, she's got a mobile tour coming up.
Just a quick question, there was the article I mentioned, I sent out in the Washington, Brookline.News about the charging stations. My understanding, the charge point stations, the pricing is set by the town. Green Spots, I think that's their name, they set theirs. Does the town break even, at least break even on the charge point stations, do you know? I'm curious what there's a big difference in price. Is that Green Spot just making a profit? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I will say the reason, so we now have an EV revolving fund that money is going into, and then that money that is brought in through the fees for the charge point stations then goes out to pay for the electricity and the maintenance and, cloud service contract, things like that. And we are able to do that. That is because we treat it as a full network. So some of our stations perform higher than others. And, certainly the Webster level 3 stations are high performers for us. So our plan was that we wanted to get at least a year with the revolving fund, a year of being able to look at that data and see, are we at the right point? It was never our goal to make money as a town. It was always our goal to provide that as a service and make enough to cover the cost of maintaining. So we are able to do that, but some months we get a little stressed because it gets a little tight. But so I think it's a year in. Our plan is to evaluate and see where we're at and if there are changes that need to be made to the fees.
Yeah, because that's consistent with my personal experience with Charge Point, but Green Spot is considerably more expensive
Yes. That's the problem. And that's why the market has spoken and nobody uses the green spot charges. Very few.
That's why they close it.
It was,
Letting go their feet.
yeah, the article just has a difference and it doesn't.
The article is unfortunate in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways.
Tell when the article about Carolyn will be published.
I don't know, she just got interviewed yesterday, so I thought the reporter had said that they had a deadline to their editor of today.
It's tomorrow. Or
Tomorrow.
today,
Yeah.
today or tomorrow.
Kathleen knows.
I just met Carolyn.
Okay. Thank you.
Imminent.
I think that's everything, unless Vikram, do you have anything? Okay, let's, you, wanted to make a public comment?
Am I, I'm sorry, did you say Ann Lusk?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'm going to read from what I did send to Alexander and Rebecca because I wanted you to have a copy of this. I
And-
very carefully planned it out and made it simple. The problem to me, Brookline recently passed a bylaw that allows a homeowner to install heat pumps by right 2 feet from the property line. The warrant article only specifies that the property owner's heat pumps must be ground mounted as close to the house as possible and pass a decibel level test. The abutter, in this case, this is me, has no rights and must listen to the sound of the heat pumps inside their home, even in winter, unless they insist that a decibel level test be conducted. The property owner who installed the heat pump does not want to pay to have their heat pump tested because if their heat pump does not pass the test, they then must move the heat pumps to a different location, which involves cost. The burden falls to the adjacent abutter, me, to complain to the town. The current bylaw creates conflicts between neighbors and cost to the heat pump owner to move the heat pumps because there was no early discussion about the best heat pump location for the heat pump installer and the abutter. Their heat pump never was drawn in the plans. It was never discussed by the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, or with the butters. The solution. I am asking the Brookline Town Meeting members and the ZEAB to amend this bylaw and specify that in densely built historic neighborhoods with pre-existing non-conforming homes, property owners installing heat pumps must submit drawings of their heat pump's location to the building department. Submit these plans to the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and abutters for approval and discussion about the location. Obtain a permit for installing the heat pumps, and pay to have a decibel level test conducted by a certified professional. The solution is for people installing heat pumps in pre-existing non-conforming neighborhoods with homes close together and quiet, narrow streets to do the 4 tasks listed above. If you type in to Google Street View 18 Hart Street, you'll be able to see my cottage that was one of the 30 cottages moved here in 1870. We're only 5 feet apart. If you look at the other area that is called Whiskey Point, you will see that many of these homes are extremely close together. 2 other homes that are on Hart Street maybe have 6 inches between the homes. All the triple deckers on Franklin, on Chestnut, if you look from the aerial view, you will see that all of them are extremely close together. If you compare that to the area that is the High Street Hill Association, called Pill Hill, you'll see that those homes are large and they all have extremely large yards. So when you install a heat pump in those homes, the assumption probably also is that the homeowner is wealthier and they will buy the top of the line heat pump so they don't have to hear the sound. In our neighborhood, the person will have to buy the cheapest heat pump, and over time those heat pumps will fail and they'll get noisier. Today, I spent the time and I sent to 4 people who were registered and certified by INCE USA Guest Directory for being certified to do the decibel level test. The decibel level is supposed to be someone who's certified, and it involves taking the decibel levels of the heat pump on the property line, not 3 meters away, on the property line, and not 1 meter away on the property line. And also, the person is supposed to capture the ambient sound of the neighborhood. and then make a comparison between the ambient sound of the neighborhood and the heat pump decibel. In Brookline, it is not supposed to go over 5 decibels if there's a high-pitched noise, or more than 10 decibels. In these neighborhoods, our streets are very narrow, one way. We have parking on one side, so there's very little through traffic. So we don't have the sound of traffic in the ambient noise. We also don't have shops and high commercial areas because the areas were developed in 1870, 1890 up to 1920, and we don't have large areas with much commercial development. We also don't have schools right here. So their backyards are silent. So when I asked the professionals for the price, I only got 2 responses thus far. One, the person said they don't measure heat pumps in private homes, but the other person even spent time living in Brookline, and his price is $5,000 to $7,000 to charge the homeowner for doing the decibel level test. All of these problems and the conflicts with neighbors would not have arisen if they had shown the drawing of their heat pump in the plans, if they had had to go through the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, and talk about the location of the heat pump with the abutters. And they would know in advance that it's very difficult for them because not only did they install 2 heat pumps, variable speed, on their property, but they installed it in a room. And the new amendment says you're supposed to install it ground level, and it's not ground level if it's on a floor inside a 4-foot deep room. And you're also supposed to install the heat pump as close to the house as possible, but they installed the heat pumps, 2 heat pumps inside the home. So they have an insulated ceiling, an insulated wall, another insulated wall, and they have a big 8-foot by 8-foot opening inside my walkway, and I'm only 5 feet away. So I hear their heat pump in my house, and I have solid insulated walls. I have R32 on the roof. I have storm windows. I have old growth lumber, to double hung windows. You can see one behind me. And my shoulders hunch up when I have to hear the sound because I only have 4 rooms in my house. So I'm asking you not only to help with this situation, but to help with all the property owners going forward. I've already heard complaints from other people who have to hear the heat pump. And unlike an air conditioner, you have to hear it all year long. And I'm worried about this coming summer because I cool my house by keeping all my windows open and having the cool air come from my backyard, which is shaded and green. I don't know what it'll be like to live with their neighbor's heat pump sound and be in my house. So I thank you, but I'm not a town meeting member. I would ask you to work on an amendment to the town meeting because what we have doesn't work, and it's especially unfair to the abutters who have 0 rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne.
And could you just share your, well, I have your name, but your address or precinct number as well, just for the record?
Yes, yes. It's 18 Hart Street, and I'm in precinct number 5. And on this street, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these little cottages close together.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. What is next on the agenda? Alexander?
That is it.
That is it.
The quick meeting.
Done on time.
We are, well, we'll go close. Yeah.
Okay.
I move we adjourn.
I second. I'll start with Vikram.
Aye.
Aye.
Second, and I.
Thank you.
As much roll call. Everyone, not restricted.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Would you like to write